They say history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. We tend to think about global power shifts in terms of, armies and navies and big explosions. But right now, there's a new kind of arms race happening. It's silent, it's fought with code, and it could reshape our world just as much as the atomic bomb did. This is the story of a new Manhattan Project.
And look, this isn't just some dramatic comparison to get your attention. This is really the heart of the matter. Back in 1945, mastering the atom, that's what made America the undisputed global leader. The big question today is whether mastering artificial intelligence is about to do the exact same thing for a new power. The goal this time isn't a weapon. It's an entire computing ecosystem that could create a whole new kind of global dominance.
Okay, so let's really dig into this because this comparison is absolutely crucial. Project 1.0 was about one single devastating weapon. Project 2.0, though, it's about building a whole system of mass intelligence. So we're not talking about a single explosion, we're talking about controlling the very infrastructure of the future. The first project created an unchallenged American superpower. The outcome of this one, well, that's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
And just like the first Manhattan Project, this new one was really born out of conflict. Back in October of 2022, the United States launched this incredibly precise strategic attack, but not with missiles, no, with regulations. The goal was brutally simple: stop China's AI progress dead in its tracks by locking three critical gates.
The first gate was the brain, the software. It's called Electronic Design Automation, or EDA. Think about it. An advanced NVIDIA chip has something like 80 billion transistors. You can't exactly draw that out by hand, right? EDA is the ultra-complex architectural blueprint for the chip. And here's the choke point. Just 3 American-controlled companies dominate a whopping 75% of the entire global market. By controlling the software, the US could make it nearly impossible for China to design its own advanced chips. Gate 1, locked.
All right, so with the design software blocked, the US went for the second gate, the actual machines that physically print these chips. Now, the only machine in the world that can print at the cutting edge is made by a Dutch company, ASML. But the US found a lever. A single, absolutely critical light source deep inside that machine is made in California. By controlling that one little part, the US could block the sale of the entire multi-million-dollar machine to China. Gate 2 slammed shut. And that brings us to the third and final gate, the hardware itself, the finished AI chips. The US government banned the sale of the really good stuff, like NVIDIA's best processors, to China. The rule was super specific. Basically, if a chip was powerful enough to be used in, say, advanced nuclear simulations, it was off limits. So you see the strategy, right? Block the software, block the machines, and block the hardware. On paper, it looked like a perfect checkmate. China's AI ambitions seemed totally choked off. But Washington, it seems, made one huge miscalculation. They assumed China's state-backed companies would behave like normal companies. They thought, hey, without the best chips, they'll just fail. But instead, being cut off from the best hardware forced Chinese engineers to come up with this incredibly clever software trick, a totally different way of thinking about AI. The best way to get this is with an analogy. So picture a hospital. The American AI model, like ChatGPT, is like a hospital where every single patient, even a kid who just has a scraped knee, is seen by all 250 specialist doctors at the same time. I mean, it works, but it's incredibly slow and expensive. The Chinese model, DeepSeek, is different. It has a smart receptionist. When that scraped knee comes in, the receptionist just pages the knee specialist. The other 249 doctors, they get to keep sleeping. It is massively more efficient. So the process itself is really simple, but totally revolutionary. A problem comes in, a router, that's our smart receptionist, figures out what kind of problem it is, and then it only activates the tiny, specialized part of the AI model that's needed to solve it. This mixture of experts idea meant China could get incredible results using much weaker hardware. It was a genius workaround. But here's the thing. This software cleverness created a new, massive brute force problem. While the whole specialist doctor model was smart, using weaker chips to do the job of one powerful chip was just wildly inefficient when it came to energy. It took a crazy amount of power. And that's not a problem you can solve with clever code. That requires a national-level strategy. So to get the same performance as one powerful American chip, China might need to cluster, say, 7 of its less powerful chips together. You can think of it like an ant colony strategy. But that creates a huge new headache. That little cluster of 7 chips burns 4 times more electricity. That makes everything crazy expensive and really, really hard to cool.
So how on earth do you solve an energy problem on that scale?
Well, the answer was just breathtaking in its simplicity and its sheer audacity. The Chinese government basically said, you know what? We don't care about the inefficiency. America can have the better chips, but we have the power of the state. If our chips burn 4 times the electricity, we'll just produce 4 times the electricity and make it cheaper. This was not a market solution. This was a geopolitical power move. And they were not kidding around. China launched this massive East Data West Computing project. They are building a solar farm in the Gobi Desert that's projected to generate more power than Germany and Brazil combined. They are literally digging data centers into the sides of mountains for natural air conditioning. They're even sinking servers to the bottom of the ocean to be cooled by seawater. They are terraforming the country itself to power their AI ambitions. So let's bring this all together. The United States launched what it thought was this brilliant, decisive blow. It blocked the software, the machines, and the hardware. The goal was to absolutely cripple China's tech industry. But it seems to have produced the exact opposite effect. And this is the ultimate irony of the whole situation. The sanctions were designed to be a poison. But for a nation with the resources and the political will of China, they acted more like a vaccine. Yeah, it caused a short, sharp shock to the system, but it forced the entire industry to develop its own antibodies, making it stronger and pretty much immune to future attacks. And just look at the result. A completely independent technology ecosystem. For every American tech champion, a Chinese alternative was born out of pure necessity, and then fueled by billions and billions in state funding. The explicit goal, mandated by the government, was to literally delete America from the supply chain. And you know what? Step by step, that's what they're doing. And that leaves us with this one final, really critical question. The U.S. believed it was putting its rival in a technological cage. But it seems China didn't even try to break out of the cage. Instead, it just used its own immense resources to build an entirely new, self-sufficient world right outside the bars. And now, it's getting ready to export that new world to the rest of the planet.